The 49ers are preparing to face the rest of the season without Fred Warner. And is there any drama brewing in the wide receiver room? We'll discuss that plus some injury updates today on 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, October 13th. Not a victory Monday, not even a happy Monday. You know, it's just a plain old Monday, as bad as they come, because we're still reeling off of the news of Fred Warner being out for the rest of the season. But as we, generally try to do in these Monday shows with my Monday co-host, Weston, we're going to try to find some silver lining in all of this. We'll see if we're successful. But Weston, I mean, how are you? How are you holding up? I know, it's rough. It's rough. How are you doing?
As a fan, I'm in mourning. As a human, like, hey, we're here, Steph. We could be far worse places. We still get to talk about our favorite team. I do think there are some silver linings, or at least that are there for right now. How much longer, I have no idea. But yeah, a somber Monday nonetheless, and it has, for me, it has very little to do with the loss. It has much more to do just with Fred Warner and the news around Fred. Like that's a tough pill to swallow.
It's crazy because like the loss didn't even matter to me. Like I didn't even care about the loss. Like I cared about Fred Warner, and I think that was on everyone's mind. It was hard to kind of, as a fan, a viewer of the game, refocus on the game and not think about Fred Warner and not think about the impact of the rest of the season, right? So, yeah, it was just like you said, tough pill to swallow. I think the silver lining we probably looked at when Nick Bosa went down for the season was, hey, well, at least we have Fred Warner, right?
Yeah.
And, now you don't have that. And we saw rather quickly in that game how just not having Fred could impact that defense, right? And there's going to be adjustments to come, but it feels like too big to overcome, Weston, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's the sobering part about it, right? Is like Fred would be the first one to tell you next man up mentality, etc. But Fred is as significant as a loss as this team could sustain. Forget the quarterback position, forget about the wide receiver depth, forget about Nick Bosa. Like Fred is the guy you can't lose. And here's the reality, like Steph, like the silver lining is on paper. When you think of the loss, okay, so you're still third overall in your conference. You're still in first place in your division. You're still 2 games above 500 early in the season. Like it shouldn't matter all that much, but it's like, and this team, if you look at the schedule, look who's coming back. Even in this loss, Steph, even with Fred Warner playing 8 snaps, right, defensively, like this was still a winnable game, right? Like that make you excited, but the reality is like, even if this team finds a way to rally, finds a way to sustain some success, and finds their way into the playoffs, like how can you take them seriously without former defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa and arguably a top 10 player in the National Football League, regardless of position, Fred Warner? Like that just changes the landscape. Like it's, you get there, and there's still a clear path on how they can get there. It's just like this team struggled to get to the mountaintop with those 2 guys. Yeah. Without those 2 guys, is it impossible? No. Is it a monumental task? Yeah. Like it's as big as of a task you can get. And to like losing Fred, it'll get cleaner. Like you have to trust Robert Saleh. Like he's going to put these guys in good position. He's going to optimize like their ability. We've seen him do that throughout his tenure with the San Francisco 49ers. Losing Fred mid-game is like worst case scenario because like game plans out the window, everybody's out there chicken with a head cut off, not prepared for that. A guy who's played 8 years in the National Football League and has missed one game, played with like, let's just call it a broken leg basically last year, right? And like finished the season and gutted it out. This just hurts. It just hurts. It hurts in the worst way imaginable.
Yeah, no two ways around it. I mean, yeah, it definitely does. And the 49ers are going to have to muster up something without him. And, we talk about so many key players being out and energy sources really for this team being out. George Kittle, Nick Bosa in his own way, but Fred, like, it just feels like Fred is one of those guys that it doesn't feel like it's only an impact for the defense. This feels like an impact for the entire team because that's just how important he is and how he sets the tone for the entire team. Like everyone knows it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he even inspires coaches, right? And their performance. I don't know, but I just know that it is a hell of a big loss for the 49ers. So right now we're looking at the list of 49ers linebackers, and of course Fred Warner's going to be out for the season, but from there they have D. Winters, they have Luke Gifford, Tatum Bethune, who played some snaps after Fred Warner went out, took over in his place, Curtis Robinson, who's mostly been a special teams guy, Nick Martin, who's been inactive for the first 6 weeks of the season, but everyone is curious when we're going to see Nick Martin. Well, I think you can be sure that he's going to be active for week 7's game against the Falcons. And then you have Jalen Graham, who's on the practice squad, and you could probably expect the 49ers will, maybe look to bring him into the active roster. But, again, there just really isn't anyone here or even a group of these guys that feels like it could fill the shoes of Fred Warner. I do like what D. Winters has done this season. He's a second-year player or third-year player. It's just not – it's hard for me to, again, just kind of see him fill those shoes. You could say what you want about how he's filled Dre Greenlaw's shoes. That seems to have come easy for him. But, Fred's a different story. You're just not going to get that out of any of these guys. We might as well, just stop asking for any of these guys to be – the next Fred Warner of this defense. I just don't think it's going to happen. I know Lenore, did say, it's on me to be the leader of the defense now. And, it's good that you have veterans on the defense that, kind of look at it as next man up and, I could be that guy. Definitely wouldn't hurt, right? I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have just another voice, be a little bit louder in these times. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I just think it's going to be a by committee approach.
Yeah, it's the same resolution you come to with losing Nick Bosa. It's going to have to be by multiple bodies, not a singular individual. There is no replacing Fred Warner. Like, period, point blank, stop. Like, that is a hard stop right there. It's not. And it becomes like difficult to manage because you didn't draft Nick Martin to be a backfill to Fred Warner. Like it's different positions, right? So do you find him out there? The reality is you're going to see a lot of Tatum Bethune. And I like Tatum Bethune. I just, who goes without saying he'll never be Fred Warner, but Steph, I've said it time and time again on your show, the thing with Tatum is he's just a step and a half too slow to do what the 49ers need him to do at the position. He's serviceable. He's knowledgeable. He's actually a very high football IQ guy. He's easy to root for. The reality is like, that's who you're looking at. Like, I don't say this often, but Gifford stinks. Like he's awful. Like he should not be on the Nick Martin. Hey, you drafted your first 5 picks were made on the defensive side of the ball. You are playing all 5 of them now. Like there is just no way around it. Like you got to find ways to get Nick Martin on the field. You got to this is now we've said this about Kyle on the offensive side of the ball. Like, hey, his coaching has masked a lot of the inefficiencies through the first few weeks here. Salah's going to have to do the same. The difference here, Steph, and what's a little crazy, and let's be like overly optimistic about this, is Fred Warner was that like big play, big moment takeaway guy, right? Like you felt like with his punch outs and his coverage ability, he had the ability, even when things weren't going well for the defense, to change that narrative like with a single play. That guy doesn't exist right now. They have zero pass rush, right? So there's no strip sacks taking place whatsoever. And there's no punch out Fred running around doing those things. But the good news is, in theory, the offense should be getting their reinforcements, right? So if you can find 7, 8, 9, 10 extra points per game through getting your all-pro players back on the opposite side of the ball, the reality now becomes is the defense, instead of being a top 10 defense in the league, the ask should be, can you make 2 to 3 stops per game, right? Can you not allow, can you keep them out of the end zone or from putting the ball between the uprights 2 to 3 times in a game? And that could be enough. And we've seen that done before. The Kansas City Chiefs have done that with a porous defense and a high-powered offense. The Detroit Lions have done it, under Dan Campbell with a high-powered offense and a bottom half of the league defense, especially last year with all the injuries and then the run they went on anyway. So can it be done? Yeah, like it absolutely can be done. The difference is now you're relying on a plethora of rookies and second-year players to do that with like 2 veterans. So we'll see how it goes, but the ask is going to be different. And if the ask is different, there's actually nobody in the league that I trust more than Robert Saleh to find a way to dial up 2 game-changing plays on the defensive side of the ball. It can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, and maybe it's not an every week thing, but maybe in just the games that matter. The 49ers sit at 4-2 right now, which is still a good record, and if you continue to get some wins here and there, it could certainly get you in that playoff contention. So, I mean, I think that's really what the 49ers are looking for right now. So a couple things on what you kind of just mentioned there that I wanted to touch on. And one of those things is the possibility that the 49ers could look for pass rush help, because that was a conversation, you remember, after Nick Bosa went down. It's been a conversation since. We expected it would be until 1, they actually make a trade, or 2, till the end of the trade deadline, whichever comes first, right? And so I think now with Fred Warner going down, that kind of like muddies that water a little bit. Kyle Shanahan did speak with the media today, and he was asked about it. Like he's been asked almost every time, but now, of course, with Fred in mind and the loss of him, and Kyle still doesn't completely shut the door on a trade being possible, but he's, to this whole point, like he really hasn't changed his tune. He has continued to say that it has to be a trade that makes sense, not just for this year, but next year as well. So probably not looking for a rental, that I think we keep hearing him say this, and I think we just need to take that into account. You're not looking at a rental. You're not looking at someone who's going to necessarily break the bank either. So someone who is under contract more than 1 year and it is probably on a reasonable deal that you can work with, right? Someone who's going to be a bridge player for you and could maybe even surprise you. I think that's maybe what they're looking for. So he doesn't rule out a trade. But it just feels like it needs to be in certain parameters that make sense to them. And I still think, from my standpoint, and this is just my opinion, right? I still think it's not a for sure thing that this team is worth, investing any draft capital in. Of course, we will see, right? If they win, the next 2 games or one of the next 2 games, like, you could certainly say to yourself, hey, we still have a good record. Like we could still, like I said, squeak into the playoffs
Yeah.
and, make some noise. So I think they still need to evaluate that a little bit. Maybe these next 2 weeks tell you a little bit more. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. Like the Fred Warner thing does add some, I don't want to say complexity. It just adds more to think about for the 49ers in this case.
I think it puts them in a more protective state where now between the loss and then the loss of Fred Warner, now you can sit. You still have a couple of weeks before the trade deadline, right? You can sit and monitor this thing a little closely. Maybe you're not as urgent as you were coming into this week, especially if you were, if there was no Fred injury and a win. But we've talked about it before. I think the game plan's always been it's not I don't think they were in the market for a rental, period. Like regardless of the scenario, I think they're always, as part of this youth movement and as part of like planning for the future, you can still make a move now that also improves your roster for next year too. And I think that's what they're looking at. I just think with the loss and then not having Fred Warner, doesn't you don't need to be full throttle on it. Like now you can just sit back and see how the next few weeks pan out, not just for your team, but how do the remainder of the teams in the conference look too? You know what I mean? Like, but the reality is always going to be like, it was probably never going to be Trey Hendrickson, like regardless of what the scenario was, it was always going to be somebody that you probably at worst case had this year and next year as well, especially if you're giving up the draft capital to do it, because look, they've been pretty fortunate in the last 2 years in terms of how they drafted and production that they've gotten from those players. I mean, look, this year's draft class is playing dividends right out of the gate. Like, so I think they're much more reluctant to give up those picks than they have in the past. But I think it's look, we're hang back and see what happens for the next few weeks before they have to make any decision whatsoever. And then who's going to be buyers or who's going to be sellers, right? The next 2 weeks will tell us, what teams are already waving the flag for the year and trying to stockpile for next year.
Yep, indeed. And I don't think the 49ers would look to be sellers in any case. I think they just kind of want to see what they have in their team, and they'd be happy to, go into next year with those guys if, of course, they're still under contract. Now, the other thing that you had mentioned that I didn't want to talk about is the reinforcements, right? Let's get into some silver linings for a bit here. We did get some updates on injuries from Kyle Shanahan today. So obviously Fred Warner, his surgery is going to be happening Tuesday. Nothing definitive on the timeline, but Kyle did say that he expects that he should be good to go for the offseason program. That's positive, right? Yep. And then as far as George Kittle goes, coming back from that hamstring injury, he's missed the last 5 weeks. He's expected to practice and play this week against the Falcons. So that is certainly good news, will be much needed. And then wide receiver Jordan Watkins, who's missed the last few weeks with a calf injury, he is also expected to practice this week. We'll see what that means for his availability for Sunday, but trending in the right direction. And of course, we're all wondering about Brock Purdy, right? Well, it seems like he's going to be evaluated on Wednesday to see if he can practice in any capacity. Same goes for Ricky Pearsall, who's dealing with that knee injury, right? So we'll know more later in the week on those guys. I wouldn't get too optimistic or too down on either of those guys. We'll wait and see. And then, of course, Brandon Ayuk, we have questions about him, right? So he's getting closer, but Kyle Shanahan continues to say he's not ready to put a date on it yet. He did kind of mention thinking around week 10, but no for sure date. So just something to keep an eye on for the return of Brandon Ayuk. But these are pretty much a lot of offensive players that we're looking at here that could be making their return soon for the 49ers. There were actually a couple of other ones that he mentioned that I didn't quite get on here yet. Gross Matos, he'll continue to rehab. Kevin Givens will continue to practice, is what he said, but didn't really say anything about Givens coming back. So, TBD on that one as well. But reinforcements on the offensive side is exactly, I think, what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
No pun intended, on just how they can keep it moving without Fred Warner, and with this defense now being as banged up as it has been. Like, you're gonna have to put more points up on the board if you're expecting to win games. Like, and then there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so, getting some of these guys back should be, a positive thing for this offense. Just hopefully, maybe we see Brock out there. I just don't know how much longer Mac could continue to take these hits, even with how good he's done. Like, I just don't know how much more he can take, because he's been just taking a beating like the last few weeks that he has played. So we'll see. We'll see on Brock. But in any case, George Kittle will be back this week, and that seems to be a really good thing for this offense going forward.
Yeah, I think Brock aside, Kittle and Pearsall are the names that you need back that move the needle offensively for you. Kittle, we know what he's capable in the pass game. I think he gives a little shot in the arm for the run game, which is like in dire need right now. You just talked about Mac Jones taking that hits, and that's because there is no threat of the run game. You know what I mean? Like, you can't turn on social media with everybody talking about, oh, Mac Jones is throwing the ball more in consecutive games than Brock Purdy ever has, and that's because there's no threat of a run game. It's that simple. This is not. You think Kyle Shanahan wants to throw the ball 39 times a game? Like, I promise you, he does not. But if that's the way you move the football, that's the way you move the football. And throwing the ball 39 times a game becomes a little bit easier when you have names like George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall out there versus Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson and Juwan Jennings with one functional rib. It's easy math, like you want more seasoned targets who do special things with the ball in their hands as well, especially if you're talking about getting the ball out quick and keeping a clean pocket for Mac, the way this offensive line's been playing. So, yeah, you got to be excited about that, but those two are the names that matter the most, Like, you talk about losing Fred Warner, and then getting George Kittle back like the week after, like, that does wonders for the locker room too, right? Like, for everything that Fred Warner is for this football team, George Kittle's a close second in terms of the heartbeat on both sides of the ball and what he brings to the locker room. So maybe that's a little jolt, and we see winnable games on the schedule, Steph, right? Like, nobody you're afraid of on the schedule in the coming weeks. I mean, Jesus, Atlanta looks pretty good against Buffalo
right
now, but like, let them go win their Super Bowl right now and then have a letdown on a short week next week.
Yeah, suddenly that one looks like a tough game, but they're going to be on a short week. 49ers going to be the more rested team going into that one. So, hey, we'll take whatever advantage we can get. And, they haven't seen much of George Kittle this year to know what they're in for, I guess. But, definitely a shot in the arm that the 49ers could use. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we get into, talking about 49K Player of the Week and more silver linings. Just the question with what's going on with the 49ers wide receivers. Well, we did talk about some updates right there as far as injuries go. But there's some other things, like there's reports during the 49ers Bucks game right before halftime that there was an argument between Kyle Shanahan and Juwan Jennings on the sideline that looked like it got pretty heated by all accounts that mentioned it. And of course, those guys were asked about it. Kyle Shanahan was asked about it today, kind of just brushed it off as heat of the moment, football games get intense kind of thing, which I can understand. We've seen that so many times, like in games like, the Travis Kelce and Andy Reid sometimes have like arguments, and it's just like, those guys, sometimes when guys are just very competitive, like that comes out and it
Yep.
just looks intense, and that's kind of what Kyle Shanahan said. It seems like they're okay and they're fine. Juwan Jennings, after the game, just didn't say anything specifically about the sideline argument, just kind of put it out there what he's dealing with injury wise, right? The 5 broken ribs and also the high and low ankle sprains. So that's crazy. As far as the broken ribs, I'm not a medical expert, but I don't think he'd get cleared for that like already.
Yeah,
like that I'm wondering if maybe he's confused or I don't know, like maybe it's bruised ribs and that, that's still a lot to play through. But broken, I'd be a little concerned of how he got cleared so fast from broken ribs. In any case, like Kyle, like someone did mention the broken ribs, not directly. It's not like they asked Kyle, like, hey, like we heard he has broken ribs. Is this true? But someone mentioned it within a question that was in a completely different like context. And Kyle didn't correct them, but also like I feel like Kyle barely knows what's going on with injuries most of the time too. So it could be that, but I definitely want someone to ask about that. And if we can clarify if it's bruised or broken. But anyway, as far as the sideline spat, did you have like any concerns about this? Just given that this happened in a game where you lost Fred Warner and like, the team was still trying to fight to get this win. Things got heated, things got intense clearly. But this doesn't concern you at all, right?
No. There's a lot of things to take into account. The wide receiver position, as we all know, is a diva position to begin with, right? Like they all I think this was just a hard fought struggle for the 49ers from minute 1 through minute 60. A lot of tension. Obviously, Juwan Jennings was a focal point in the offseason with, is he injured? Is he holding out? And then he comes back and he hasn't been productive. Even they found a way to, structure in some more money for him that probably ties back to playing time. So he wants to be out there and he wants to be producing. I just think it's a lot of things. And I agree with Kyle on this. Like, I think it's just like two fiery, competitive guys that know each other really, really well and probably have had a really good relationship where it's just like open line of communication. And that's how it's being interpreted. Do I love like Juwan sitting out there talking about like playing through injuries and like what his injuries are? Like, no, I don't love that, because if you're that injured, then don't play, dude. Like, don't play. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to tell you? 5 broken ribs? I don't think so. Like, I'm just being real with you. Like, I've had a cracked rib before, Steph, and if I sneezed, I wanted to die. Like, let alone go play football. You know what I mean? Like, and I know Juwan is always like, he's got a couple of screws loose out there, and he's an animal, and that's one of the things that we love about him. But 5 broken ribs, like it's an embellishment. Like, does he have some sore ribs? Yeah, I'm sure he does. Like, we saw that shot that he took. Like, that's going to be painful. But I'm not overreacting to this. I'm not looking too far into it. But I also think this is a product of wide receivers being wide receivers and you doing your little like song and dance to hold out to get a couple more bucks. And look, here's the facts, bro. You haven't been on the field and you haven't lived up to the billing. Point, period. You know what I mean? Like, you aren't Juwan Jennings. That was Juwan Jennings last year that was standing on his business asking for all this money, or demanding a trade or whatever the hell it was you were really doing. So I think there's frustration on both sides, right? Like, I think Juwan is equally as frustrated that he hasn't been healthy and hasn't been out there. And I'm sure Kyle let him know about that too. You know what I mean? Like, dude, we gave you more money. Where the fuck you been? Like, it's simple NFL math. And you got KB, who's been here for like a cup of coffee out there doing, like, I don't even know if I need Juwan Jennings on the field right now based on the way he played yesterday. Like, he didn't do anything Juwan Jennings-esque other than get a penalty.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, and didn't come at a good time
Oh,
because that happened after the argument. But yeah, it just was not his best game, was not his best moment. But it seems like they're moving forward. The other wide receiver thing I wanted to talk about, in case anyone has seen this on social media, and I'm only bringing it up because I think when news gets out, a certain type of news, even if it's not true, or even if it ends up getting corrected or something, it is so much harder to undo the damage that has already been done. Like, those things spread like wildfire,
yep.
and people aren't going to, unfortunately, corrections or the truth thereafter don't spread as quickly. So I feel like we do have to kind of talk about this. And it's a nothing burger, I will say that, which is good for all of us. So NBC Sports Bay Area put out a piece today about, it was actually this afternoon, about Brandon Ayuk unfollowing the 49ers again. And the reason that I'm posting it from the SF Niners, Brad Graham, friend of the pod, fellow content creator, his account, the reason I'm posting his clip here, or his Instagram post about it, will make sense in a bit here. It's all relevant. So they put out the story. It was from Jennifer Lee Chan, basically, saying that, Brandon Ayuk unfollowed the 49ers, deleted everything having to do with the 49ers again, and he hasn't been seen practicing for some weeks now. And it created this cloud of doubt. And also, when you keep in mind that this comes just a day after the Juwan Jennings thing as well, it's like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
the vibes are not great. So, like, it spread very quickly. Even with the contract negotiations of Brandon Ayuk, everyone knows how contentious that got for the 49ers, for Brandon Ayuk, for the team, like for the fan base.
Yep.
A lot of people turned on Brandon Ayuk and feel a way about Brandon Ayuk even to this day. So a story like this certainly just adds more fuel to that, right? More fuel to that fire. So, Brad quote tweets it on Twitter and, just says like, hey, like, this is false. Brandon Ayuk never refollowed the 49ers after getting his contract extension. His Instagram has looked the same for several months, so he hasn't like just recently deleted all this stuff. And if you guys recall, he deleted most of that 49ers related stuff, pictures with him with 49ers, all that. He deleted that back then. So like, really, there hasn't been anything that's changed with his Instagram, both from his following or post standpoint. And then he also points out that Brandon Ayuk even has a URL, a link to his profile page on the 49ers website. So it just weird, like I said. And so in response to that, and here you're looking at Brandon Ayuk's Instagram account that is pretty stripped of anything really at all that would even suggest he plays for the 49ers, aside from, the link that he has there. But this is not new. It has looked like this. So yeah, it's weird. And NBC ended up deleting the story from their social media accounts. Jennifer Lee Chan said they've made a correction. Something about the timeline, but even the timeline, I don't know. It's just a very weird thing, and it just a weird thing to not get verification on, I guess, if you're NBC. But
I just like, I feel like the mainstream media so badly wants to create this feud between the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk specifically, but definitely wide receivers like Debo in the past as well. It's irresponsible reporting at like the end of the day, with no like verification, no like even double checking or fact checking. The fact that like Brad, who does a sensational job, can just as quickly debunk it as fast as it comes out, like, that's a problem. But like, this is like mainstream media, like in the world, Steph. Like, you just can't go there for your news anymore. Like, you got to go to your beat reporters. You got to go to the people who closely monitor the team. Like, NBC is the same thing that gives you Pro Football Talk, and we all talk shit about Florio and everything that comes through there and the other reporters. It's tough. And then you're right. Like, it's like PTSD to like what we went through last year and how the 49er fan base so quickly turned on a man that's just trying to get paid, and just trying to be rewarded, for his efforts and his production, et cetera. And during that offseason, this is the stuff that like Steph makes like even doing this like hard for me. It's because it's just like people out there like just throwing random shit against the wall and then like get to delete it and just be like, oh, my bad. Like, yeah, you're bad. Like, you didn't even like fact check yourself, and you don't have to in this day and age. You can just like come out and say whatever you want. I just think like media desperately wants this rift between Brandon Ayuk and the San Francisco 49ers, even after the fact the man got paid every penny that he asked to get paid. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's strange, and it was almost painted like, there's an issue with Brandon Ayuk possibly being unhappy that he's not getting his practice window opened yet or something like that, which is...
He's still not a year removed from the surgery.
You're not ready.
Yet.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
Even the clips from like a couple of weeks ago that were circulating on social media of him running routes, that did not look like a guy that's ready to have his practice window open. He wasn't even doing any hard cuts or full speed runs, or full speed cuts. So I think the timeline they've been communicating, which is not even a definitive one, but even just saying like around week 10, we're not ready to give a date. I think that's fine. While I think we're desperate for wide receiver help. I get it. I get it. We still haven't heard about Jacob Cowing, by the way. Like, I don't know. Is he alive?
He plays for this team.
He's missing. But yeah, this team is just has a reputation for not divulging information unless they're asked on it, and even then, sometimes there are things they're just a little vague on. And this is one of those things. But I think there's no harm in what they're doing and how they're handling the Brandon Ayuk situation.
I think they're protecting the player.
Yeah.
Their
investment, by the way.
Yeah. Like, this is like, all right, I'm going to make this as simple as possible. Brandon Ayuk is a piece of stock on the stock market, right? And stock is a long-term investment. You're not looking for overnight yields. And coming off that injury, I think they've done, for a team that has handled these things poorly, I think they're doing a great job in protecting the player. And you haven't heard from Brandon Ayuk directly, right? Any information you're getting is kind of coming from the 49ers. And it's more like, we're not comfortable putting out timing in a window just yet. They're protecting that player, not like the Jawan Jennings, him saying I have 5 broken ribs and I'm out there, almost feels like he's saying the team's making me be out there. But the Brandon Ayuk scenario feels drastically different. They're not forcing somebody to be out there that's not ready to be out there, because again, Brandon Ayuk is more about impact in 2026 than he is in 2025 for the 49ers. That's just the facts, and we've said that since June, that you can't expect much. It's going to be a nice to have, be a bonus if the team is playing well. He's somebody you have to account for, but he's not going right back to Brandon Ayuk production. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Not in 2025. I think that's kind of out the window, but it'd be nice to see him. But, at the same time, it's with the way the season is going, I'd be fine if we did not see Brandon Ayuk this season, as long as when he does come back, he is 100%. But I also think, Weston, they're also protecting themselves. You said they're protecting the player, but they're protecting themselves too, because if they put a date on it and that date is not accurate, the Jacob Cowing thing, they said, it'll be 6 weeks, or however long it was, right? I think it was 6 weeks, and then week 6 came and we didn't hear about it. So we're like, hello, something must be wrong, like,
Yeah.
and so I think that also maybe keeps them from wanting to give anything definitive, because then you can hold them accountable to that. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't. Like, things happen, or time, it really depends on how the player is progressing through all these checkpoints that they have to get to. So yeah, I think that's
I think
probably part of it too.
I think I'm a little different than you, Steph. Like, I do need to see Ayuk this year. I don't need to
That's
see
fair. I mean,
super production. I just need to see I'm back. I worked through this. A window
yeah,
opened. I did everything I could to get myself back on the field. I'm here for this team. I have 3+ more years on my I do need to see number 11 on the football field this year. I don't need to see impact. I don't need to see production. I just need to see presence. And for me, that is like this. It signifies actual progression through
right.
this injury. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, it's too much money invested for somebody to almost be like, I got the year off, and then the off season's here, and like, what's
yeah.
your
Well,
accountability level? You know what I
I
mean?
don't think Brendan Ayuk would do that. I think the 49ers would make that decision of kind
For
of,
sure.
although, yeah, not to get too, like, segue too far. I was going to just say about Dre Greenlaw, who would have made sense if they didn't have him play that year, or if they just decided to shut him down. But obviously Greenlaw did want to come back. So it's like, I think Ayuk would want to come back. My thought is there's the possibility that the 49ers say,
We don't
does
need
it,
it. Yeah.
like, how much are we really gaining by having him out there? But yeah, I agree with you that it would be nice to see, just
Yeah.
to know that he's progressing, and you
I,
start getting through those mental hurdles too, which is very much a real thing when coming back from injury as well. So
I
get
just
that
think,
out of
like,
the way.
think of the rift that they're already painting right now, and the rift that was painted last year in the offseason. I just feel like I don't want this saga dragged on for another 9 or 10 months of like
That's true.
the player and the team are at odds. To me, if a window opens, said player comes back and plays regardless of the production, to me that says relationship is fine. I think that's the piece that I'm looking for.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fair. All right, we ready to find a silver lining from week 6,
For sure.
and nominate some players for 49K Player of the Week. We don't have many, but we have some, and I'll let you start first, Weston.
I was hoping you went first. All
Oh,
right.
I could go first, but I only have like two players. I thought of a second one, so.
All right. I'll go first. And I won't go first the same way I went first last week. But it's Kendrick Bourne. It's Born Again, Kendrick
Born
Bourne.
again.
This
I like that.
retread of his San Francisco 49er career, 5 catches, 142 yards. Steph, he averaged 28 yards a grab on 9 targets. The last 2 weeks have looked crystal clear that these guys are in sync with one another. That KB still has a little juice when the ball's in his hands and what he's doing after the catch. Jesus, if the last 2 weeks, if there was no Kendrick Bourne, I'm not really sure where like the explosives come from in this offense outside of what he's done. And he's done it 2 consecutive weeks, and I see no reason why it's slowing down as long as Mac Jones is the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. It's KB for sure.
Yeah, he was definitely first on my list. I mean, obviously the chemistry that he has with Mac Jones is an incredible one. That's, really carrying this offense for the last couple weeks, like, and probably could have the week prior as well, had he not, dropped those passes. But I do think, like, he's been extra motivated since then. and you're seeing some nice production from him, and it just doesn't feel like it's too much of a fad. Like, yeah, obviously guys are banged up and he's stepping into this role where obviously he's going to get a lot of targets just by virtue of him being like the healthiest of all the wide receivers. But I mean, if you look at his routes, if you look at him getting open, like, I mean, he's legitimately getting open. So I mean, this is good to see, and I like what he's bringing to the table. It is reminiscent of what he did when he was first with the 49ers, right? And
Yep.
you know, the role that he had then, and which became Juwan Jennings' role, which is now currently Kendrick Bourne's role again. But you know, he's also being a little bit more than that, I think, and that's the 49ers have needed that big time. He's, you know, he's got a little bit of wheels on him too. He's getting some stuff after the catch as well. So yeah, definitely appreciate what he's been doing. I think when we talk about guys coming back like Kittle, and you know, Pearsall, and even, you know, maybe Jordan Watkins, I still would like to see Kendrick Bourne as part of this rotation, as part of, you know, the guys getting targets, because I think he's definitely earned that so far. So yeah, that definitely on the short list of names that we got to nominate this week.
Yeah, I agree. I will say I agree with that, Steph, in the sense of like, regardless of who's coming back, if I'm being real with you, I need to see 84 more than I need to see 15 right now.
I mean, right now,
based on
right
production,
now,
based on health, based on just being part of this team. You know what I mean? Like Juwan, we always praise Juwan for being this guy who was like this team guy. And I'm saying he's not. I'm just saying this year has started rocky and disjointed for him. And KB's come in and filled in for that. Like, he's blocking down, like he's doing everything that he did when he was a 49er before he left to go to the New England Patriots and signed himself a contract. And he's doing everything that Juwan Jennings has done in his absence. Like, I don't think there's a scenario in my heart whatsoever, regardless of what reinforcements come back, that based off these last two games, he has to be part of the game plan.
Yep, most definitely agree. All right, so I think the next one, and I guess that's the two on my list. We've got them through. So Eddie Pinheiro, of course, obviously, the 49ers scored 19 points. He scored 13 of them. Yep. So, yeah, I think we do have to give him some props. He has still been perfect on field goals since becoming the 49ers kicker. And knock on wood, people, we're not trying to jinx the man. We're not trying to jinx the man. You know what's funny, and I'm really annoyed by it currently, is that I'm seeing that Jake Moody, who is active for the Bears in tonight's Monday Night Football game, he's making his kicks. You know,
he's 2 for 2, Steph. He's 2 for 2 tonight.
I'm pissed. But in any case, I'm actually not, because I just feel like Eddie Pinheiro fits this team. He fits like a glove, just as far as the culture, the energy he brings. I feel like the fans appreciate it and are vibing with it so much more as well. So no regrets at all. He's been awesome. He's been nails. 50. He had 4 field goals on Sunday, 2 over 50. He had the 52-yarder, put him on the board first, followed by the 54-yarder before halftime. Or actually, no, he had 2 before halftime. He had the 54-yarder with 2 minutes to go, and then right before halftime, the 42-yarder, and then the 29-yarder. And that was the last time the 49ers would score. But in any case, like, he's been awesome for them this year. And it just, I just appreciate it, because I feel like the 49ers, football and NFL in general, the margins are so slim that having a kicker, even just 3 points, like, those things matter. Having a kicker matters. So having a kicker like Eddie Pinheiro has been a game changer for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, Steph, I wanted so badly, but there's no way I could lead off the show 2 weeks in a row by nominating the kicker right out of the gate. But I mean, you know, things are going well for you when I think it was his 52-yarder that that thing looked like it just came out so low and left, and then just like locked in and just like went straight from that point on. And it's fine because I'm watching, the game on the side over here, and I can see that Moody's made 2 field goals, and I was definitely going to make the comment. I'm happy for Jake Moody. Like I am, I root for every player in the National Football League, minus like Russell Wilson and a handful of other people that I just will never root for ever in my life. Like there are I am genuinely happy to watch all of these gentlemen succeed. But I think you made the right point. Like Jake Moody just never felt like he fit the style and personality and the swag of this like Pinheiro is the kind he can lead the box out of, you know what I mean? Like on the road, coming out with the beatbox, like he could be front and center holding the goddamn box. Like he just fits even as he makes me overlook the fact that he's a kicker in the National Football League. Like love him, but like you said, listen, Jim Nantz did everything he could basically to jinx this guy during the game. He even admittedly doubled down on his efforts to be like, he hasn't missed, and Tony Romo's calling him out on the broadcast, and he still hits. And you and I both know if that's Jake Moody, it's a miss. We just know it. You just know it. And even, listen, you have to score touchdowns to win games in the National Football League. We all know that. But there's a lot to be said for walking away from a drive that still scores, still yields points, right? Like, especially staring down this really dark tunnel that the 49ers are looking at with a lot of uncertainty on the defensive side of the ball, a piss poor week after week performance from their offensive line, and find like points matter to this team, and they had a point, right? What, 4 consecutive drives where they got points? And
listen, it's part of the reason that the game was as close as it was for how long it was, because of those field goals. So to your point, it was big. It makes a difference big time. Did you have anyone else to nominate?
No, I got Flowers. But
I think 2 is good. 2 is good for this week. And for anyone who's tuning in live with us, gonna put the names up on the board, but it shouldn't be too hard to remember. We got Kendrick Bourne and Eddie Pinheiro. I've seen a couple before we even finished nominating, Weston. I've seen a couple votes already. But if you haven't voted yet, please put those in the live chat, and we'll have a decision here. In the meantime, me and Weston will give some flowers. I'll go first on this one.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give flowers to Mykel Williams.
Yep.
He got his first sack of the season, of his young career, on Sunday, and it happened not too many plays later after the Fred Warner injury, which is why I don't think any of us could appreciate it as much as it should have been and could have been in other circumstances. But I want to give him flowers here because I think it's a good accomplishment, especially for a guy who, coming out of the draft, wasn't seen as, having the pass rushing chops right away out the gate. I think he's shown plenty already to suggest that he's going to continue to get better at that, and he's going to be a very, very good, well-rounded player here soon. So, I just wanted to make sure I gave a shout-out to Mykel Williams. We take some time to appreciate him getting his first sack.
Yeah, 100%. And again, he continues to be stout against the run. He's a big, strong man who actually plays multiple positions for this defense right now, which is going to be needed, right? Starts out on the edge and then slides in on third down. So he's quickly slotting himself in as a 3-down defensive lineman, which is like what you need out of your number 11 pick. And when you invest your first 5 picks on the defensive side of the ball and going for a youth movement, I'll go a step further even there, just saying that kudos to not just him, but CJ West, Alfred Collins. Like, these guys are getting snaps. They're playing well. If I had to nitpick Alfred Collins, why are you like 2 yards off the line of scrimmage half of this game? Steph, go back and watch, especially like in the fourth quarter. This man is like way off the football, and that's like a coaching thing. And it's just like, I know he's exploding in, but like too much time for the offensive lineman to, if anybody's moving and pulling or even just to set against you, think you're taking yourself out of the play. That's a Kasurik thing. I think they'll get that straightened out, but these guys are getting reps. I'm gonna give my flowers to Tatum Bethune, a guy that we're gonna talk a lot about for the rest of the year, Steph, because he's gonna be the guy that starts and he's gonna be the guy that plays, and it's not gonna be Nick Martin as much as you want it to be Nick Martin. They don't have another Mike. They don't have another. I'm telling you, Tatum Bethune is a very cerebral football player. He doesn't get enough credit for that. I said it when they drafted him, Steph. We can go back and listen to the shows after the draft. So there's a lot to like about this guy. He's just a step and a half too slow. So what does that mean? He had 10 tackles. It's a lot of tackles.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He'll be around the football. Here's the difference. If he's in pursuit or needs to fill the gap, instead of filling it at the line or for a tackle for a loss, it's going to be for a 1 yard gain or a 2 yard gain. Or if he's in pursuit coming across the field, he's going to make the play, but it's going to be after the running back gets 4 or 5 yards instead of if it's Fred Warner, it probably looks like 1 or 2 yards. The difference between 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 7 matters in the National Football League. And that's not a knock on Tatum. Like, you're born with speed. Speed is not coached. It is like literally God-given. And unfortunately for him, he is like, I'll give him a little credit. He's a step too slow based on what the 49ers ask of the position. I think he can play for other teams, but the way that they are built and the way this scheme is run, but his nose is going to be in there. He's going to find the ball carrier a lot, but he got thrust into a position where the heart and soul just got ripped out of his defense, and he had to go play 3.5 quarters of football. And I thought he did an admirable job in doing it.
Yeah, I like it, and I hope that he does continue to progress. It's not going to be easy. I mean, throughout the rest of this season, but these snaps are going to be invaluable for him, especially for a young player who could still learn a thing or two as he's playing. So I always see it as different than a veteran. You're not teaching an old dog new tricks after a certain point, but Tatum Bethune could improve as the season goes on. So and to your point, speed, not going to improve there, but other areas of his game that could maybe make it a little bit easier for him and make sure he's in the right place at the right time. That will go a long way for him as well. So, yeah, I like it. Looking forward to seeing what he does going forward. Again, like how we view this defense going forward is going to shift a little bit, right? We're going to look at it from a different standpoint of who's progressing. It doesn't look great right now, but who's going to – I don't know if we lost Weston for a bit. I don't know if maybe his laptop died or something, but give him a second to come back. Yeah, we're just going to now look at this team, this defense from the standpoint of who looks like they're standing out, who looks like they could be someone really important for this team going forward next year, right? Like that's what is going to excite me about the rest of this season. Like I have to find something to be excited about for this defense. And I think if I do, it's going to be that. It's just going to be about what diamond in the roughs are the 49ers finding as a result of all this? Because I think there could be a couple of guys that show great potential. But all right. Listen, Wesson's still let me text him in case I don't know how fast he can come back, but see if I could at least get his vote for 49K Player of the Week. I've gotten all of your guys' votes right now. And so far, it's all Eddie Pinheiro. I'm going to add another to the list. And, quite honestly, even if Weston did vote for Kendrick Bourne, which I don't think he's going to do, but even if he did, Eddie Pinheiro would be your Week 6 49K Player of the Week. So I think that decides it. And, we're about at the end of the show here anyway. So I think we can call it. If Weston comes back here in the next minute or so, pop him on. But thank you all for tuning in. I know there's 2 Monday Night Football games going on right now. So if you guys are in here, I really appreciate it. I admire your multitasking. You're doing great. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating. leave a review. Hit that notification bell so you know when I go live next. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Monday. Peace.